So, I'm at home today. I'm going to try and make a cooking video, I guess, for just something quick and tasty. This is something that I eat fairly often. The medium of bread changes, but what I put on it, well, what I put on it changes too. But today, I'm going to use some kale. Does happen to be French organic kale. I'm going to cut the leaves off because I don't really like the stem. I'm going to use, I'm going to make paninis today. I'm going to make them croissants. So I'm going to plug in the grill, open up the croissants, and the ingredients that I have are some mayonnaise made with olive oil, some Dijon mustard, some guacamole that I made, and kale for one sandwich, spinach for the other, baby spinach. I have some mesquite smoked turkey breast and some baby Swiss. It's pretty good flavors. Something my wife and I like anyways. So while the grill is heating up, I'm just going to put these together, and you can put your sauces on whichever order you like. The croissant will, with all its holes, will take a lot of sauce, so you want to make sure and not put on too much mayo. If you're putting that on for your first layer, whatever you put on for your first layer, you don't want to put on too much because it'll easily just go right into all the holes. You can see here how there's a hole that's half filled, but you can see it'll go pretty deep, and it'll just put on way too much if you let it just fill in the bread. So just kind of spread it over to your liking, however much you prefer. And remember that you're going to be using multiple layers of sauces, so it's okay to just put on a little bit because you're going to put on a little bit more of something else afterwards. So I use my mayo for my base layer. Then I'll put on some Dijon. I'm just going to spread that around so it gets a even flavor throughout the sandwich. And next, I'm going to put on the guacamole. Now the guacamole I made a few days ago, and I usually just prep it, and like I said, I'm going to school full time, doing my pre-dental, and so I don't always have time to make some of these nice foods, comfort foods if you will, on a daily basis. So I usually prep more than I'll eat that day, and then I can just have it at my leisure without having to go to the store and get it, which is also time consuming. But being a college student, that's not always in the budget either, so there's two birds with one stone that I benefit myself with by one, making it myself, and two, making more than I need at one time so that I can have some whenever I want. So I do this with a lot of foods. I made some chili a couple weeks ago, and I just made a big pot of it and froze some portions in containers so that I can have that whenever I want. And I know that it's not full of MSG, and it's not full of all these preservatives and other ingredients that I don't really want to put into my body. And that's the same for the guacamole. I could do a video later if there's any interest in learning how I make my guacamole. If there is, then leave a comment below and subscribe, and I will leave that or make a video about making guacamole. Now, on one of these, I'm just going to put some kale on the sandwich and make sure I cover all my surface because I like it. On the other one, I'll fill it up with some baby spinach. And at least the stems on these are pretty small, but if you don't like that little extra crunch, then you can go ahead and cut them off or pull them off because they're not too hard. But I like it crunchy, so I'll just leave them on. If not, you just snap them off. But you can hear that crunch. That's something that I prefer. Now, I didn't this time, but I usually leave my mustard surface to go next to whatever the meat I'm putting on because I like that combination of flavors. But it's okay. You can do it however, because you're going to get those all in the same bite anyway. Then I'll just put my meat on. I'm going to do this so that I make sure that whatever leafy greens I have put on, or tomatoes if I choose, will stay in place so I'm not losing them. And the cheese, I'll do the same thing. Just want to make sure that it stays inside the bread surface so that you're not losing your cheese all over the grill when it melts. And you can put more or less, however you'd like. I like a lot of cheese, so I'll pile it on. It's going to be a lot for this croissant, so it's still going to run all over the place probably, but that's okay. You can cap them, and something that I do to make it easier for me is I'm going to have the cheese, since it's going to melt, I'm going to make sure that when I put it on the grill, the cheese is going to be on the top. So what I'm going to do is flip it over and make sure that the cheese is on the bottom to start out with, because I am going to put a little olive oil on the surface and then spread it around, because that's going to give the nice golden toasted crunch that I'm looking for. Now, croissants are already pretty toasty, as you can see, but it's just going to give it a little extra crunch. And I'm a big olive oil fan, so that is going to be just fine with me. I'm going to see if I can fit these both on here. Now see, I've flipped them over, and that gives me the top surface with the cheese. That way, as it melts, that cheese runs right into the sandwich instead of directly onto the grill. We can have a few drops of olive oil there and get on top of everything. What I do, I like to make sure that my panini gets squished so that it's easier to eat, because that's just really big. So, see, if you can see that I put it in there, and you can see that they were really thick before I put them in. And I just give it a little push down so so that as it's heating and cooking the panini, because really all I'm going to do is toast it and melt the cheese. Other than that, it doesn't matter. But I set my plate here to catch a little bit of that oil and grease that runs off and makes cleanup easier. I'll just leave that as it is for a little bit and check on it after a minute or so, just to see how toasted it is. Now, if you've seen some of the Facebook or other YouTube channels that I like, you'll see that I have something called yerba mate that I have listed as something that I like. So this is that. You can look up the nutritional information wherever you like on that. Here's, so you can't really tell. It doesn't get too clear on that, but there's the nutritional information. That's in Spanish. Yep. I don't have it in English. I speak Spanish, lived in Argentina, lived in Chile, lived in Canada, working as a missionary with a lot of Central and South American immigrants. So, and my wife is from Chile, so there's a lot of Latin American tradition in our home. One of those traditions is mate, or yerba mate. So, it's something that it's an herbal tea made from the plant that's called mate that is native to South America, especially corners of Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and those areas. And if you look at the raw herb, then this is the way it comes. Ready to use. You just pour some of that into a traditional cup or gourd. A more traditional gourd would be one like this, wrapped in leather, and it's a bit of a design. This one's handmade. This was actually a gift from my godfather from Pototo in Argentina. He gave this to me when we got married, and you see, it's a loose herb, so you have to filter it somehow, and they do that with a straw. They call it a bombilla, or bombicha, however you'd like, depending on where you're from. And has little holes there on the end, and you just stick that down into the herb, and then you fill it with some water, some warm water. You want it just before the boiling point. You fill that up, and then drink it down. Some people don't like it. It's an accustomed taste. It's something that I got used to a long time ago, and it's also pretty good for natural energy boost, and it does have components that are natural diuretics and helps you slim down if that's something you're looking for. I'm obviously pretty slim, but it's something that I like and I have on a daily basis, so it's not necessarily something that you have to use for that purpose, but it's not going to hurt you. Anyways, they use that in they use yerba mate or extract from it in a lot of health nutrition products, including energy products and pills and weight loss pills, etc. even from GNC and other companies. And you can find those if you look through the ingredients in your local supermarket, your local nutrition store. They'll have them, and they sell this at specialty Latin American culture stores, and they sell it in local supermarkets as well. I know they sell it in the Sprouts Farmers Market and the Whole Foods that are close to me, and those are just a couple of the stores that I know they sell it in. Not advertising for them, but that's what's close. So I'm going to take a look, and my paninis are toasted. You can tell a little bit here that they've got those toasty lines like that. So nice and tasty. I'm going to cut it in half and just show you what it looks like. So remember how big it was, and now it's small. So that's easier. That's bite size for me. Breathe in a little crust there. Oh, you know what? That's just right. So I'm going to chow down. That's all the time it took. And I'm going to hit the books because I had a bunch of studying to do. Thank you. Please leave a comment and subscribe.